you're not going to believe that there's greatness in others. And I think that's one of the problems that Brent and I have had to deal with these Jesuits and with Laurie McBride. Is they're such small people. They're so petty that they can't understand or appreciate the greatness that Brent and I have. And so that's a problem that I've had to deal with. I don't know if it's worth mentioning this or not, but it might explain why I've handled my fellow human beings the way I have, why I've been so secretive. I've been very reluctant to discuss my feelings for Brent with anybody because I didn't think they could understand, because I was afraid I would be misunderstood. It's kind of like trying to expose the diamonds in your heart to the pigs. There's a verse in the Bible that talks about this. Matthew 7:6 says, "Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you." So, I did try with some of my Christian friends to open up a little bit about my feelings for Brent, but I was so afraid that Brent would get into trouble that I didn't tell them everything. But I wanted to talk about this with somebody. It was so hard to keep this all to myself. But I did a very good job of keeping secret the communication that Brent and I had. And let me tell you, that was very hard on me. It was so hard on me to have such strong feelings for a man and not be able to talk about it to anybody. And I think that's one of the reasons that I turned to writing. I had to find a way to let the world know about this awesome thing that happened to me, to communicate it somehow. And writing was my catharsis. I think that's one of the reasons I turned to writing, because I couldn't talk about this. My Christian friends would have condemned me. The way things were, I knew that I would be misunderstood, that nobody could understand that Brent wasn't just some sex maniac who called me on the phone, that he really was a deeper person than that. And I was so afraid for him. I was so afraid that my Christian friends, quote unquote, would not be as gracious and tolerant and forgiving with Brent as I felt he deserved. So that's why I didn't talk about him to anybody, because I knew that his outward actions made him look very bad. But I knew the man. I am very good at reading people, and I knew that he was a good person, that he wasn't shallow. And yes, it's true that he has a brilliant sense of humor. And he made me laugh so many times when I would watch him, when he would go on talk shows. I thought he was so funny. And I have quite a sense of humor myself. But what I didn't like, what I noticed with Laurie and the Jesuits is I'm getting ahead of myself again, but many times they tried to portray Brent as only having a sense of humor, and a shallow one at that. Brent is very funny, and I can say this because when he called me on the phone, he often put his cast, like I heard Gates McFadden on the phone one time, and she said like, "Duh," and I could tell he was being humorous. And I could tell that whoever this caller was, they were very witty and very funny, because he often joked, he used very humorous methods to communicate with me. But and sometimes it was borderline crude, but it was never cruel. I never sensed that Brent was a cruel person. But I definitely could tell by the nature of his phone calls to me that whoever this caller was, they had the personality of Brent Spiner. You might say, what kind of personality did you sense he had? Very witty, charming, which which is what most of his friends and acquaintances knew about him, there was a side to him that a lot of people didn't know about. And that is that not only was he witty and charming, and very witty, but he was the ultimate in finesse and sensitivity. He knew when it was proper to joke and when it was proper to be serious. He had a very fine-tuned sense of appropriateness, of knowing when he should be compassionate, when he should be witty. And I sensed that underneath that humorous exterior, and I always believed that one of the reasons he was so witty is because that was his way of coping with pain. It was like a coping mechanism for him, and it worked very well for him, and he was genuinely funny. But I could tell that there was more to the man than his sense of humor. I could tell because of the way he talked to me on the phone, when he made love to me on the phone. I have never heard such depth of feeling, such emotional sensitivity and intelligence. Also, I could tell that whoever this mystery caller was highly intelligent and very quick on his feet, because he caught on very quick to anything that I communicated with him about. It didn't take him long to figure out how my emotional health was. He was very in tune to my emotions. He always seemed to handle my emotions with the utmost finesse. He always seemed to have an uncanny ability to know exactly how to keep me calm, how to make me feel important to him, and how to nurture me when he sensed that I was down. That's the reason I couldn't understand how somebody as emotionally supportive as he was, and as generous as he was in expressing his feelings, why he could give me 3 weeks of silence in September. One of the reasons I was devastated was not so much that I was feeling sorry for myself. I was worried about him. I sensed that there was something terrible happening to him, something catastrophic. And this is not, when I tell you about the suffering that I went through with the HRS and that 3 weeks of silence, let me tell you, I'm not exaggerating one bit. I was in so much emotional pain that 3 weeks in September, when he didn't call me, that I told God that I was afraid I wouldn't be able to live. The pain was so intense that I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I couldn't function. And I said, God, if you don't do a miracle for me, I'm going to die. It was devastating to me. He was giving me I don't know how to explain it. Through Brent, I found completeness, wholeness as a person. He made me feel integrated. He gave me confidence. And all of a sudden, like a split second, he was just cut out of my life for no apparent reason. It was like having my arm cut off and I was bleeding. That's how I felt. I felt like the blood was gushing out of my body and I was losing all my strength. And the only way I could stop the flow of